Hey Saleem, have you seen my Blastoise?
Hey Brendan, no I haven't, show me.
I'd sure like to see it. Wouldn't you?
Whoa, who the hell's this guy?
I'm Ash, from Tangelo Island.
Okay, I thought you were from Palatown.
You want a battle, huh?
I don't have a Pokemon. Brendan, a little help here please?
Done and done. Let's go Blastoise.
Blastoise!
Hey there, Rhyhorn.
Did he just call your Blastoise a Rhyhorn?
Okay, Pikachu, let's start off with a Thunderbolt attack.
Blastoise, use dodge and then follow it up with a Skull Bash.
Blastoise! Blastoise! Woo! Oh man, your Blastoise just rocked his Pikachu with one hit. Brendan, your Blastoise is awesome.
Are you sick, man? That's an awful lot of blood loss.
Don't worry, I'll be just fine. Let's get going. Pikachu!
Now, I don't know if there's a Pokemon Center near here, but there's a vet down the road. Maybe go there.
Thanks, Professor.
What?
Alright man, take care.
Thanks, Sissy.
Sissy? These goddamn millennials.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the House of Mario, the award-winning Nintendo podcast on the hashtag 8-Bit Collective. And the doors to episode 93 are officially open. I am one of your co-hosts, Brendan White. You can find me just about everywhere at Brendan 8-Bit. And joining me, my usual partner in crime from another life, Saleem Abraham. Find him at Saleem TD. How you doing, man?
Hey man, I'm doing really well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Unfamiliar surroundings here, but it feels nice and homely. This isn't our usual gig, so apologies in advance, listeners. Sitting there going, "Hey, am I on the right station here?" You are. This is the House of Mario podcast, but we are replacing Drew and Bryce for this week's festivities. Dream, do you want to sort of lead in about who we are and what the heck we're doing here?
Yeah, absolutely. So who are we? We are two of three podcast hosts from another podcast called the Hungry Gamers, which if you have checked out the hashtag 8-Bit Collective, which the House of Mario is on, you'll know that we are also part of that same network, the 8-Bit Network. And the reason we're here, I guess we're just really fortunate that Bryce and Drew were happy to just throw us the keys to the house for one fateful episode. We're both part of another network called the AGPN, which is a collective of podcasts that all talk about video games and love video games and are just crazy enough to put their voices on microphones. And the AGPN decided to do this thing where we swap shows and formats for just one episode, just for a bit of fun, just to play with something that's a bit different and try something new. And so Brendan and I are here today, and Bryce and Drew, if you do miss them, that's okay, because you can go over to our show, The Hungry Gamers, where they will be releasing episode 148, I think.
You are bang on the money.
Gamers. Yes, okay.
Yeah, so episode 148 is now available. So as you're listening to this episode, once you are done consuming us through your ear holes into your hearts, head on over to the Hungry Gamers. We are on just about every podcast platform known to man. And give a listen to episode 148 as well as all the other episodes in our back catalogue. There is quite a few humdingers in there. But Dream, it feels sort of like we've broken into Dad's liquor cabinet at the moment. It's very, very sort of cheeky, sort of sneaking around the House of Mario here, not wanting to touch too many things. There is quite a bit of Bowsette hentai art on the walls in here. I'd be scared to run a blue light through this place just quietly. It is quite the place to behold, though.
Brendan, I don't know if I've told you this before, but I've actually been here before. Not to record an episode. No. Bryce and Drew lured me in here one day, and it's kind of like it's like the gingerbread house. No, not the gingerbread house. It's like the house in Hansel and Gretel, where like everything looks great from the outside. It just looks like an absolute delight. Like you just look at it and you see that it's just made of candy, and you think, yes. And so you go in and it all still looks good, but something kind of goes wrong. And that's kind of what happened to me last time I was there. I won't tell you about it too much now. I guess there's plenty of time to talk about that later. But let's just say I've been here before. It is a nice house, just not when Bryce and Drew are here.
That is very foreboding.
Yeah.
So I guess to try and put a little bit of a positive spin on episode 93 of the House of Mario. Maybe we'll do a little bit of a flex of our Nintendo muscle just to sort of prove any naysayers that might be listening to the episode wrong. You know, who are these gaming podcast posers here trying to, you know, steal this Nintendo flair? So let's maybe talk about our origin stories with Nintendo, what you remember as sort of childhood memories, maybe consoles that were dear to your heart, maybe games that were, you know, have a special place in those emotions as well. Dream, where's it all start with you as far as Nintendo?
So I'm born in 1990. So I consider myself to be a 90s kid. I think you're quite close. You're like 87 or 88, if I'm not mistaken.
I am 86, 86, sadly. Sorry, listeners. I am the oldest probably guest / host / whatever on the House of Mario. But that doesn't mean I'm still not cool like hip young kids, you know. I can still Nintendo. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, well,
I'm sort of a 90s kid though anyway, because like I was 4 or 5 in the 90s. So
exactly.
You know.
No,
but go on.
And that was the point I was trying to illustrate, is that we both probably lived, you know, at the height of, not at the height, but maybe just maybe the funnest time to be a kid, which was the era of the Game Boy. And my earliest gaming memories are all Nintendo memories. I remember playing like Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo when I was probably like 3 or 4. It was kind of the iPhone that the parents had at the time. It was the thing that they could just get kids to do just to not kill themselves while your parents take a probably, you know, long needed break. So yeah, I have like really fond memories of growing up with Nintendo and around Nintendo. And I was probably at the perfect age for Pokemon as well when that craziness hit. So I remember, you know, Christmas of 98, getting a Game Boy Pocket and Pokemon Red. It was kind of the most special Christmas of my life, I think, just in terms of what I felt on that day and how excited I was to get it. And it set up, I guess, a life and love for gaming ever since. So Nintendo definitely has a very fond place in my heart.
Yeah, I'm sort of similar, like sort of a parallel story, I guess, to yours as well, where the first console, like I remember as a kid, we had an Atari 2600 when I was like a tiny little chap, and you know didn't really have the full appreciation of games from an ownership perspective. But I remember getting our Super Nintendo for Christmas. It would have been 93-ish, something like that. We didn't get it sort of that launch window in that sort of 91, 92, but it would have been probably Christmas 93. And similar, like getting Super Mario World and Mario Kart and things like that. And I remember my uncle and I playing through Super Mario Brothers 3 together. He was Mario, I was Luigi, and going from World 1 all the way through to World 8, not using any whistles to skip levels or worlds. And sort of that was the first game that actually fully completed front to back in my gaming history. So that'll always sort of have a little special place on the emotional shelf. But yeah, the SNES was the king for me. You know, I spent hundreds of hours on that as a little kid, and obviously, as you sort of pointed towards, like it was probably a good little safe haven for parents to just park you in front of the old CRT television and sort of, you know, let you get lost on the SNES for a while. And then I remember a couple of years on, getting Game Boys, just like you mentioned. Like I got Pokemon Blue and my sister got Pokemon Red. I got one of the black sort of skinned sort of Game Boys, and I think she got like a red one if I remember right. And I remember just sort of sitting there and getting lost in the old OG original Pokemon RPG experience, and you know, hearing the little chiptune animal sound effects and everything else. And yeah, it's a console and it's a brand that's near and dear to my heart, but sort of over the years with the release of this, like the Sony PlayStation and the Xbox and things like that, sort of fell behind for me. Like I remember playing a heap of Nintendo 64 at a friend's house. We never had a Nintendo 64, but I remember, you know, going around there and playing 4-player local co-op or local split screen, on like GoldenEye or, you know, various the wrestling games. And then I bought a GameCube wholly and solely because of the sort of the remake of Resident Evil 1 that launched on there, and then Resident Evil 4 made its way there, I think a year or two later. So I owned it. That was the sort of most recent gaming console from the Nintendo family I owned. outside of the Nintendo Switch. Had a Wii, but didn't really do much with them. Sort of, it's like a drunk party console, and you put it away outside of that. But yeah, love Nintendo. So many good memories from when I was knee high to a grasshopper to now, and it's good to see them keep on keeping on.
Yeah, the 64 is a funny one. There was an era where you could go to like a Target or like an EB Games, and there would just be this Nintendo set up in a kiosk, and for whatever reason, it was a thing for kids to just go there and spend hours there playing the games on that kiosk. Those kiosks that are just designed for demo-only purposes. I used to like line up to play these things, and it would be like the same group of kids around them for hours, just while their parents go and do the shopping or whatever. And you just get to know names and faces just by hanging out at this little kiosk playing a Nintendo 64 and playing like Banjo-Kazooie or playing, Mario Kart or whatever it was that was on there. Dude, it was a weird, special time gaming with Nintendo in the 90s and the early noughties.
100%. And like even sort of being able to play 4-player local games, whether it be versus or co-op, was something that was just so revolutionary at the time. Like there was sort of multi-tap adapters you could get for the SNES and things like that, but when the 64 rolled out and it had the 4 local controller ports ready to rock, it was so exciting going around to a family member or a friend's house or an EB kiosk. But I'd always, well, not always, probably half the time I'd end up with the freaking controller that had the busted stick, like the joystick that was just broken and leant downwards. So it was like,
just your camera's constantly tilting one way.
Yeah. So I'd learnt about adversity in video games at a very young age. But I guess that sort of leads us nicely into a question. You referenced Mario Kart before. So our boy Dane Peavy has sent in the question, and he goes, between the two of you, who reigns supreme in Mario Kart and who's your main? So I'll hand this over to you first, good sir. Mario Kart prowess. Where are we at?
I'm gonna hold back all of my like competitive shit talking for a moment and be super diplomatic. Right now, you and I have actually played Mario Kart. We played Mario Kart 8 together, and you dominate me. Like every race we played together, you win convincingly. I was never in there with a shot. So if it was Mario Kart 8, I think you would quite happily win that quite easily. But if it's Mario Kart 64, different story entirely. I feel like I will always beat you at Mario Kart 64. At least 70% of the time I'll win. And my main would be Yoshi.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with just about everything you've said. I know especially for Wario Raceway, you are the king of the old turbo shortcut over the jump, where I like to race dignified. I'm like, no cheats, no shortcuts. We're just settling this on the track. But it's within the rules. I know that. So
it's one of my favorite things to do is like let someone pick that it's Wario Speedway, I think it is.
Oh, Wario Speedway, sorry.
I think that's what it is. The right at the start, those like hurdles, what would you call them? I don't know,
berms?
Like dirt mounds. Yeah, you can jump straight over the fence and cut half the map. And that's something I practiced doing for hours as a kid.
Can confirm you are exceptionally good at that sort of shortcut maneuver. And I'll admit you cheating. Probably do. You do take home the bacon most of the time on 64, but Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and things like that. I'm a bit of a savant, I'd like to say, in that realm. Michael from Reset is probably one of the only guys that can sort of hold a candle to me, and maybe Narcy. But myself and Rosalina on the sports bike, thanks for coming. Just give me the winner's trophy when we're lining up before the race even starts. Save the embarrassment, just forfeit sort of thing. So, Rosalina's my boo in the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I love that game. I love being able to play that on the Switch, and obviously back from the Wii U, it was still pretty great as well. But yeah, such a good game. Such a good game. A couple other good games I've been playing. It's a nice little segue. I've been playing a lot of Switch lately, and especially sort of with the thought process leading up to recording this pod. I'm very late to the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney sort of games, and now that they've released the trilogy in full on the Nintendo Switch, I went, you know what? Now's a good time to sort of give this a crack and see what it's like to be a lawyer in some sort of Japan-esque universe. So I've been working my way through Phoenix Wright, finished the original game, and I'm about probably 2 or 3 missions or chapters into the second of the trilogy. I'm enjoying it. For anyone that hasn't played a Phoenix Wright or an Ace Attorney game, it's very, point and click. You sort of, clicking on things to work out where clues are, getting information about crime scenes, cross-examining witnesses, looking at evidence, so on and so forth. And then it all plays out in an anime-esque looking sort of courtroom. It's good fun. The characters are pretty great. Some of the dialogue's, pretty hilarious and nice and campy and cheesy. Just about every woman seems to just be getting their titties out no matter where they are. They're very buxom-based women in the sort of Ace Attorney law universe. But
surprise.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it though. Like it's very much like Law and Order SVU light. But it's good fun, and it's been a good little distraction for me, a good little #snap game. And yeah, like it's well priced. I think it was $30 or something like that on the
trilogy.
The
That's
Nintendo eShop for 3 games. Probably 20 odd hours worth of lawyer-based enjoyment there. Have you played any of the Ace Attorney games?
No, I haven't. I've had a friend describe them to me in great detail. In that you're the detective and the detective and the attorney at the same time, in that you're in court and you're using evidence that you found elsewhere to build I guess a case against the person, whether it's to, and I don't know, like the cases, again, haven't played it. I'm assuming that sometimes you're trying to prosecute someone, and sometimes you're probably trying to save someone who's innocent, potentially from being.
Yep.
But yeah, the iconic kind of whatever is Ace's like point on those.
Oh yeah,
of
Phoenix
those
Wright's
games.
point all the time. Yeah, he lives for it. He lives for those objection points. Like it's pretty good fun in that regard. There is a nice bit of theatrics, and obviously it doesn't follow sort of how a traditional court proceeding would go. Like the judge just changes his opinions on a dime, and you don't even have to sort of have evidence sort of sent in or anything. It's just you just pull shit out of your ass. Like, oh, by the way, I've got this fucking wiretap, and they're like, oh, okay, that changes everything. That changes the whole thing entirely. And then they're like, no, I object because the guy said he was tired that night, so his eyes are a bit, his vision was hazy. And they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That checks out. It's just like all this hearsay back and forth sort of melodrama. It's like a soap opera, but it's good fun.
Nice.
And another one I've been playing, another Nintendo Switch release, which came out at the end of March, Yoshi's Crafted World. Nice little side-scrolling platformer. Really cute. Obviously, you sort of got a sort of slew of Yoshis at your disposal, and you can sort of play local co-op. So Rach and I have been playing through this and navigating through these cute little artsy worlds, fighting all kinds of enemies, trying to find these gems to bring back to this massive sort of totem that the Yoshis worship on sort of Yoshi Island. So it's really fun. I like that there is sort of it is sort of a side scroller, but there is some depth to the map where you can sort of go up and sort of flip the level around so you can see it from the other side and sort of get other perspectives and find other collectibles and attack other enemies that way. But yeah, it's cute as heck. Rolling around as Yoshi with little poochies and everything like that at your side. It's adorable. And getting like little costumes, you can deck your Yoshi out in like. It's weird though, like because you go through the levels and the worlds, and they're all, as it is with the Mario universe, they're all different themes with each world you go to. But like instead of getting just like a unique hat, it's like, okay, now you've got a milk creamer outfit on yourself, or you've got an orange juice carton as your little outfit or your little armor. Like it's very unique in that regard, where it's almost stuff from like a vending machine.
It's weird.
It's weird, but it's cute. It's adorable. And it's super fun. Being able to play it together is great. It's built off the Unreal Engine, so it looks really, really good. Runs super clean on the Switch, whether in handheld or in docked mode. Well worth. I don't know if it's worth the $80 RRP here in Australia. Try and get it on sale. But if you're looking for something to play with a family member or a friend or a loved one, definitely give it a look because it's adorable as shit.
Beautiful. It sounds very cute. I'll have to add it to the list of things that I catch up on with Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, and it's blink and you miss it with Nintendo. Like it feels like they release 20 new games every couple of days.
There's just such a catalog as well. And one of the things I've realized more and more is that it's the ports that come over to the Switch that really fatten up that offering. I saw the other day that Final Fantasy X was now available there, the HD remaster of 10 and 10 and 10.2. I think it's both. On the Switch. And that's just one more game that I've seen recently that's now over there. It's cool. It's cool as shit.
It never ends. Like Cuphead obviously released there like a week ago. Getting really great reviews as far as the port. It plays well. It runs really well. Feels great in handheld mode. So that's something I've debated going back to, but it's just, similar vein to Sekiro, different games entirely, but it's still very, very punishing and soul destroying. But maybe I'll pick that up on the Switch down the line.
Yeah. I never played Cuphead. Did you finish it?
Haven't fully finished it. I think I'm at the last world.
I think I can tolerate like Soulsborne and Sekiro in a way that I probably wouldn't be able to tolerate Cuphead. It reminds me of like Raiden in a way. I know it's a 2D platformer, but at the same time, it's like those games where you're just shooting at things and things are shooting back. It just seems like you'll never really win unless you're some kind of like King of Kong level player who memorizes every map pattern and formation. And I feel like I could tolerate that in a place like Sekiro because there's just more options available to me of how I approach something than in just like the flat 2D side scroller like that, like Cuphead. So probably give that one a miss. I don't know, unless you. I'd like
to hear your thoughts on it though, because it's a hell of a game. Like it's an absolute gem of a game. Like one of the sleeper hits of last year. So yeah, if you've got a few bucks to spare, or you can bribe your housemates to give access to his Nintendo eShop account, just get on there and download that puppy and give it a go. It's about $30 as well, so it's not too heavy on the wallet.
Yeah. Okay. I like a good challenge. Maybe again, I'll see what you say, and then if you like it, I'll crack it.
Okay. Speaking of challenges, what have you been playing this week?
So I've been playing a few things this week, a few Nintendo things and a Nintendo thing and a few non-Nintendo things. A Nintendo Switch is a very recent development for me in my house. I haven't actually had one or access to one until recently, until you, as you said a moment ago, my housemates decided to pick one up. And I was sort of living vicariously through you and Ali, and living through all of your joys and all of your experiences with the Switch.
So many joys.
Now I've decided to sort of live through my own, and I decided to pick that up with Pokemon Let's Go Eevee being the first cab off the rank. Let me know what you think of this. So I think I'll go with Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. Then I feel like I want to go straight into Zelda Breath of the Wild. Yeah, does that make sense to you, or do you feel
that
like
sounds fair?
Yeah, okay. And then after enough time, I guess the thing that I would move into after that is Super Smash Brothers and just go crazy on Super Smash Brothers. Mm-hmm. That's kind of like the three catch-ups that I'm playing at the moment. Am I missing something good?
It depends on what you're looking for. Like, there's so many fantastic games that have dropped on the Switch. Super Mario Odyssey's one.
Yeah, I thought about that.
Another one, like, did you pick up Hellblade on the PlayStation 4?
No,
you played that? Like, that's ported now on there,
Mm.
which is another fantastic game. Obviously, Cuphead. And then depending on if you're looking for smaller indies, like something that I was playing recently that I mentioned on the Hungry Gamers, like Ape Out's on there, which is a hell of fun. It just depends on how much of an investment you're looking at, I think. And you've mentioned 3 games that are going to chew, dozens upon dozens upon dozens of hours. So it depends on if you're just looking for that singular slow burn 50, 60 hours, or you want something that's little pick up and play for an hour, couple of hours, you're done, or maybe you finish the game in 3-4 hours. So yeah. I'm not huge, for anyone that's listened to the Hungry Gamers, Zelda Breath of the Wild is good, but it's nowhere near Game of the Year for me. I know the Zelda franchise just doesn't resonate for me the same way it does for the vast majority of the gaming universe. So Yeah, I don't know. I'm not the best advocate for that. I'd take Super Mario Odyssey over Breath of the Wild if I had the choice between these two.
Okay. Noted. Duly noted. I have started playing Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. I'm still very early on. I know exactly what I'm getting. It's been long enough that I've seen plenty about the game. I understand that it's Pokemon Easy Mode. I understand that it's Pokemon Go more than it is a core Pokemon game. But at the same time, it's like Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow were games that I spent hours and hours and hours and hours, hundreds of hours playing. Like, that's really where the addiction started, I think, for me. It was with those games. So this is like definitely just a trip down memory lane for me anyway. I've spent probably more time than I thought I would patting the Eevee. Don't know why.
It's pretty cute.
Yeah, in my head this year, I'm going to buy a dog. And so I just thought, well, if I practice here, then I'll see if I'm actually good as a pet owner. Not that I'm about to put my dog into battles against other animals when I get it, but my Eevee...
Yeah, that could lead to some jail time.
That could lead to some jail time. And now it's framed Pokemon Formula Light that I don't like thinking about it as, which is animal fighting. Okay, anyway, so I've started playing Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. I don't have really an opinion yet about how I feel about the catch mechanic being changed over to the Pokemon Go mechanic. Just prefer the battling in general, but at the same time, I understand that this is Pokemon Easy Mode. This is entry for, kids, not necessarily something to appease the adults. I am pumped though for Pokemon Shield and Pokemon Sword when they drop later this year. Yeah. That for me is the game that I thought I was getting in 1998, I think it was, with like Pokemon Stadium. Do you remember when you heard the Pokemon Stadium was coming? Like there was a Pokemon game coming to the Nintendo 64. Did you do what I did where you just imagined like 3D modeling of the Pokemon world and just that you would just be in that world walking around living the Pokemon dream?
Oh yeah, like it was... it was childhood escapism at its finest, like visualizing that game and the potential for that game, and then obviously getting greeted with just a series of tiered battles in the stadium. Like they didn't lie; it's in the damn title of the game, and graphically it looked great.
Yeah,
but it just didn't expand on that Pokemon mythos outside of the stadium. No. So, but we're finally getting it.
Yeah. I think my expectation versus reality is probably a little bit off, but at the same, and not to talk bad about those games, I love those games. Yeah, it's just that now I think we're finally getting this version of Pokemon that I was probably hoping to see 20 years ago. Either way, yeah, I'm liking it. I'll keep playing it and report back, I guess, on the Hungry Gamers in the weeks to come. The two non-Nintendo games that I've been playing, I won't spend a great deal of time talking about. The first is Sekiro. So I called you yesterday and we talked about it. It really is Stockholm Syndrome. Yeah, I'm all in. I'm so into this game. I'm totally on board for this whole journey that the game takes you on. I had this interesting experience where I had to fight this like samurai boss who was almost at the top of this tower, and he had this kind of unblockable slash. And I died to him a few times. Like I tried dodging the slash, you couldn't really dodge it reliably. It takes more than half your health as soon as he hits you too. And he only just does this one move. It's one move, one slash. So it's like, all right, I can't dodge it. I tried blocking it. You still take some pretty heavy damage blocking. It's like, okay, I can't block it. Can I parry it? Yeah, I can parry it. And then as soon as you figure out that you can just parry it, you just parry it like 2 times, then you get the death blow. You parry it 2 more times when he comes back. You get it. Like that's the game as a whole. It's like you just keep figuring out what you can't do, and then what options you have left, and then you just try and work through that. I love it, dude. There's just so much there. There are bosses that I'm finding now that I just know I can't beat yet. There are things that I know that I don't know what exists like in the world, but I know that I'm missing something to tackle this boss. I was talking to Marche, who's in another 8-Bit Collective podcast, the Forever Movie Boys. I was talking to him about it. I was like, dude, how did you go with this boss? He's like, yeah, I didn't even bother trying it until I got the umbrella. And in my head, I was like, what the fuck is he talking about? Umbrella? What umbrella? So, it's, I don't know, it's this whole world. And I love the mystery in the world where it's, who knows what crazy things around the corner. The other game I've started playing is Growtopia, which is this game on the mobile. It was something that I just stumbled across in Instagram, of all things. And it's kind of like Minecraft, if Minecraft was 2D and there was character customization options available to you as well. I haven't played too much of this game just yet. It really caught my eye though, because it just looked fun and creative. It is a multiplayer game. So you get to design these worlds that other people can come into and enjoy. I haven't fully explored all of its functions and features yet, but I look forward to playing this as my new #snap game, because Hearthstone's I'm done with Hearthstone now.
You're done.
Yeah, I'm
wiping your hands clean.
Done. 1 week in, 1 week off. Like, just done. Yeah, it's Hearthstone. I have a long and storied history with Hearthstone. Feel free to listen to the Hungry Gamers back catalogue for that. But yeah, Hearthstone's done. Grotopia's on, and yeah, I'll let you know some more realized thoughts of that next week, I guess.
It sounds good. On that same sort of train of thought with realized thoughts, E3 is only a couple of months away. What do you want to see Nintendo bring to E3? And this question comes via way of our boy Jamie Penning. Dream, tell me about your Nintendo-centric E3 thoughts.
It's a really good question, because there wasn't a lot that seemed obvious to me about what Nintendo should do or could do next. We were rattling off, I think, earlier, all of the Switch releases over the last 2 years. They've obviously got the core Pokemon game coming up in Shield and Sword. They've just done a Mario. I think it's a bit too soon for another Zelda. Breath of the Wild was only 2 years, it's 24 months old now. Breath of the Wild? Yeah, 2017.
17.
Yeah, Metroid. We talked about Metroid. It'd be nice to see some Metroid, but you reminded me that they've just decided to completely start from scratch there only a few months ago. I don't know. It's so hard. It really is hard for me to understand. Maybe some new Labo stuff.
Yeah, like obviously they've got the VR that came out the last couple of weeks. Still gimmicky, and it's a cheap entry for people that want to get into virtual reality. I still haven't got my hands on a set yet. Will down the line, but I've just got too much stuff Labo related that I haven't touched. Like, I've only half built the vast majority of those sort of kits you get from the Labo sets. It's good fun, but it's just very gimmicky. Sort of doubling down on what you were saying, they haven't really, got the platform, I think, to showcase a new Zelda. Like, maybe they might just have a little bumper sort of pop up with the name of the next Zelda game, just to incite a little bit of hype. Who knows? Some stuff I was thinking about could be pretty cool. A new Donkey Kong Country entry. Like, they haven't had a new full release into that franchise since 2010. Obviously, they did Tropical Freeze, sort of ported that across on the Switch last year. But yeah, like a nice fresh entry into that universe could be great. I loved those games as a kid. Back on the SNES days, sort of trying to traverse those mining levels or the underwater levels, riding the friggin' marlin fish. I can't remember his name, and it's such a great time. Maybe a full rebuild, full remake of GoldenEye wouldn't go astray.
That would be a lot of fun.
It's fan service 101, but
it would be so random, given that it's a now almost 20-year-old Bond film. GoldenEye. It's probably 20 years old now, I'd say. I think
the game came out in 97, so it's 22 years old.
Well, there you
the
go.
Game itself.
Shit.
Yeah.
Maybe like, I don't know if Idris Elba's Bond film's been, like, the story's been announced yet. I don't think it has. I think Idris Elba's just been confirmed as the new Bond. But wouldn't it be fun to get an Idris Elba GoldenEye with a brand new GoldenEye released on the Switch starring Idris Elba instead of...
I would not be opposed to that at all.
Yeah. I'd love that. I think that'd be cool. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think if this was a bet, if the bookie were putting odds on this, it'd be $98.50 to 1.
Long odds, you reckon?
The longest odds, yeah.
Yeah. One that I could see at much shorter odds would be, Mario Kart 9. Yeah. I could see that very much getting announced at E3. You know, 8's been out for several years, and 8 Deluxe came out in 2017 as well. So they're due for something fresh in that series, and I'm looking forward to the 9th entry to Mario Kart to continue my era of dominance with Rosalina. So yes, please Nintendo, Mario Kart 9 announced at E3 for release in, let's say, October of 2019. That would be fantastic for me. Please and thank you.
Do you think there'll be any more crossovers like the Rabbids Mario crossovers?
Yeah, I could see that. Like, obviously they're playing pretty damn nice with Ubisoft these days, and they've got some pretty good relationships with Microsoft. So maybe we'll see a little bit of a bleed between like a Ubisoft or a Microsoft-based franchise making its way to Switch. Yeah, I'm keen. Maybe E3 might be where they finally confirm and announce the release date for this Xbox Live and Xbox Game Pass potential functionality and streaming via the Switch as well. I think there's going to be a big emphasis on streaming at E3 this year. So it makes sense.
Cool. Well, I guess we could talk about something in the news coming up about what probably won't be on the Switch. It won't be at E3.
Yeah, so I thought that sort of segued in nicely from Jamie's question. And we've taken an article from Martin Robinson at Eurogamer, and the article's headline read, "The man behind 1080 Snowboarding is working on a spiritual successor." And I'll grab a little bit of the news article here, and then we'll sort of unpack it. So Giles Goddard, alumni of 90s Nintendo, one of the first Western employees within the company's Japanese dev team, and a key figure behind the original 1080 Snowboarding, has begun work on a spiritual successor. Goddard's been working on a prototype for a while in his spare time, starting with a VR-focused effort in Unity, and more recently switching over to Unreal Engine for a more traditional third-person take as production has ramped up. The new game looks to double down on what made the original 1080 Snowboarding special, while folding in some new ideas that make the most of modern hardware. "Technology has changed," explains Goddard. "You can now have 100 players on a single mountain, and they're all playing with each other, and you can real-time stream to YouTube. People can start playing with you and then stream with really fast networking and proper multiplayer. I'm aiming to emulate the snow across an entire mountain. That means overnight snowfalls lay fresh snow. You jump on your snowboard and go down and then compress the snow, and as you turn the snow, the snow pushes and sprays across what then creates a new lump there, which other people can then jump on that. It's basically simulating snow realistically. A fluid simulation, but with snow." This guy loves his fucking snow, doesn't he? Like, he is very passionate about snowfall.
Yeah, he's going into a lot of detail about something that is fun to do, but I've never put a lot of thought into just what goes into snowboarding, that's for sure. Yeah, he's really thought about how they can make this, like, I wouldn't say like hyper realistic, but just what you can do snowboarding on snow.
Yeah.
It sounds cool. I'm not going to lie. Like, you know when someone's really enthusiastic when they talk to you about something? Like, they could be talking about anything, but just their enthusiasm sells you on the idea. That's kind of what I'm feeling listening to you say the words that came out of Goddard's mouth. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, Goddard, he's all about this. And yeah, like I'm a prime example of someone. I like to feed off passion as well and energy.
Yeah.
And this guy's got it in spades. Do we need a live reactive mountain with snow that will be compressed based off which run you choose, and then it's going to impact the person behind you? Maybe not, but he's going to give it a good old college try. And, you know, the first thing I thought when he mentioned the 100 players, I'm like, fuck, is he going to do like a 1080 snowboarding battle royale event where there's an avalanche coming down this hill and you got to race to the end and only one person can win? Like, is that where he's going with this? Because I'd play the shit out of that.
It could be, yeah. I'd be on board for that too. It's kind of like it's like a Tetris 99 thing where it's like there can only be one winner. There can only be one. So let's just throw them all together and have fun. Or I like the idea, almost like in a Forza world where it's like it's almost like free roaming, where you're just kind of taking the elevator back to the top of the mountain and then just going through 100 people to get to the bottom again, and just having a lot of fun with that. This is like for me, this story is like a real lesson for salesmen out there on, you could just talk about how it's a realistic reactive mountain that you can enjoy as a player. Or you can sit there and talk about how the snow's going to spray from the way you cut down the hill to create a new environment, a new terrain for other players to interact with. This guy, 10 out of 10 for sales. For sure,
Oh, yeah.
10 out of 10.
He's selling, and I'm thinking about buying.
I'm buying. I bought. I'm in.
Oh, nice.
I'm in. I've never fucking seen snow, and I'm so on for whatever this guy's selling me.
Well, you were going to live your best snow life in 1080 Snowboarding 2 or whatever he's going to call it. Maybe we're going to see this announced at E3 or maybe showcased. Because the last snowboarding game of note was Steep, which was a Ubisoft title, and it had that sort of Forza mechanic where it was just a mountain and you could do as you please, but the snow creation was nowhere near as adaptive as what Goddard's going on about here. So, watch this space for Giles Goddard making some magic.
I can just see him in there, like, criticizing every snowflake. Every single snowflake. Go hard, Goddard.
I said none of them can be the same. They're all meant to be unique. You're fired. It would be even better if his studio was on some snow-capped mountain, almost like an enemy base you'd see from a James Bond film.
Goddard's just out, and there's like a light snowfall happening outside. He just holds his arm out, holds his hand out, and a snowflake lands in the palm of his hand. He just whispers, "Tell me your secrets."
They will be mine.
All right, we're getting crazy.
All right, the next bit of news. EA has no plans to release Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order on the Switch.
Oh, yeah, this is what I meant.
By way of...
Sorry, go on.
By Liam Doolan at Nintendo Life. So last week, EA and Respawn Entertainment revealed Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order was coming to PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC this coming November. The game stars a character named Cal Kestis, who is a sole survivor of Order 66 and is forced to conceal his Jedi powers to stay alive. Not long after the game was revealed, EA community manager Jay Ingram was asked over on Twitter if there are any plans for it to be released on Nintendo's hybrid device in the future. He responded by saying there were, in quotes, no such plans, as amazing as the system is, in quotes. So yeah, no Fallen Order making its way to the Nintendo Switch. Sorry, Nintendo fans, because this game actually looks pretty good. I'm excited for what Respawn are going to put together here, and the fact that it's running on Unreal and not Frostbite makes it even more exciting to me. Mm-hmm. What do you reckon? Yeah,
this is what I meant earlier when I said something that we won't see at E3. And then you went into the snowboarding one, and I forgot what I just said. What do I think of this not coming to the Switch? Poor Nintendo. It looks like a real, good game and a great get. I don't understand why EA wouldn't look to release on the Switch on the outset. I'm sure there are challenges with the port that I just don't understand and couldn't comprehend. So I'm sure there are good reasons why they wouldn't necessarily come over on day one. But it is a bit of a shame. It does look like a great game. It tonally looks darker than what Disney's doing with the movies in terms of the journey of, a Jedi in training or Jedi in waiting. It looks cool as shit. And yeah, you're right. Like, just what they're doing in Unreal, it looks fantastic. I like from the trailer, rewatching the trailer several times since it dropped last week. I like seeing the force pull stuff in the environment. As a tool to actually almost like a grappling hook, if you will, where you're just pulling yourself up to things. I thought that was really cool. And I like seeing the Force imagined and reimagined in new and interesting ways. Probably the best I've seen since Disney picked up Star Wars was the way Kylo Ren Force stops that like laser bullet at the start of...
when Finn shoots at him.
Yeah, what's it called again?
In The Force Awakens.
The Force Awakens, that's it, sorry. How did I forget that? Anyway, how he stops the bullet. Looks cool. Sorry, Nintendo, I guess.
Yeah, I'd say this probably comes down to wholly and solely processing power in the Switch. Like, obviously, it is sort of a distant third or distant fourth if you throw in PC as well. But like comparing that to a PlayStation 4 or a PlayStation 4 Pro or the Xbox One family, you'd lose a lot of fidelity and a lot of sort of wow factor. I think sort of scaling it down to that 720p-esque resolution that a Switch runs on. So that's probably the methodology behind it, but it is still sad to see that it's getting the chop. But at least they're transparent about it and have sort of got ahead of that early now, and know that they can look forward to the next Star Wars blockbuster maybe making their way to the Switch. Who knows? The next and final bit of news I wanted to bring to this episode, good sir. Nintendo is deleting what it deems inappropriate Super Smash Bros. Ultimate stages. This comes via way of Wesley Yin Poole at Eurogamer. As expected, Nintendo is moving to delete what it deems inappropriate user-generated Super Smash Bros. Ultimate levels after the stage creator feature went live earlier last week. Most of the content currently being hauled offline is, as you'd expect, soon after the stage creator feature went live. Many stages featuring swastikas and other racist and offensive imagery that were uploaded. Yeah. There were also many, many penis stages, some of which ended up on the front page of the official Nintendo Switch app. Mm-hmm. And then sort of segueing into some other discussion based off these sort of removals. Some of Nintendo's moderation decisions have courted a good deal of controversy. It appears stages either entitled, in quotes, trans rights or featuring the trans flag run the risk of deletion. And in some cases, their creators were issued short-term bans. Twitter user Warm Saflina received an email from Nintendo notifying her that her trans rights stage has been pulled offline for, in quotes, inappropriate and or harmful content. And sort of segueing further from that, I've found sort of one of the emails that Nintendo send to some of these creators when they are in breach, and some of the wording is pretty blunt and aggressive. Like you are using obscene and or sexual expressions. You are not permitted to submit content that is inappropriate or may cause discomfort for others. Mm-hmm. And if you do keep doing things like that, you may face penalties, including being restricted from using Nintendo account services. So Nintendo have got a pretty hard stance on this, albeit one that is a bit controversial. What do you reckon, Dream?
I wholeheartedly support every word in that response. I think that these games are great. These games have a very, very broad audience though, and you just have to remember there are going to be tons of kids who are going to be able to access these custom maps. So Nintendo has to protect that audience, and they lean into that audience. This is meant to be a game and a console for all ages. So you can't have a custom map feature or builder feature and then allow just anything and everything to go up, especially knowing that, of course, people are going to do this stuff. There's a really good article on Mashable about the same story, which really highlights the sort of the highs and the low points of the custom map feature. And some of the highs, there's a map made that represents do you remember the first Super Smash Brothers, the sort of opening intro where everything in this bedroom came to life and there was like a Yoshi on a desk? The map is the desk. It completely recreates that kind of scene, and it looks fantastic. It looks exactly the same. There are other like really fan favorite moments from in the Nintendo world that are being recreated. Moments in like Zelda are being recreated as maps. Even just like really funny kitty little drawings of their favorite characters. Like there's just a random Kirby that is a stage that you can jump around on and play with or play in. And then there's the big penis map.
There is a lot of dick maps.
This person on Twitter, euphorizer_, posted a picture of just this giant dick map. The caption being, just made the first ever dick stage in Smash Ultimate. So proud of myself. Thank you, Jesus. You know, also there are figures having sex. There's a map which just says N-word, written that way. There's meme style maps like Sans meme maps. There's a King of the Hill propane map. There's like a crazy Sonic, like what's that Sonic the Hedgehog meme where he just looks like a doofus? I don't know the meme, but I know the image. I don't know if you know the one.
I know what
Anyway,
you're talking about, but yeah, it's a bit lost on me too.
Yeah, it's just every kind of meme related map you can imagine is probably being created. So Nintendo have to take a hard line against this. You know, you can't expect them not to.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Put it pretty eloquently there. Yeah, it's they need to be very careful with what's allowed and disallowed, I guess, as far as user generation in this universe. It is typically targeted to the youth. It is a hard stance to take. So where it is almost like a blanket statement they're throwing out here, where if it's anything that's slightly controversial or topical, you got to go. Yeah. So, and you know, some of those are up there for the right reasons.
Yeah. And I think the difficult thing is that it's probably, you know, if everyone could have their say on what's right and what's wrong and what should and shouldn't be up there, like, you know, probably we would all agree that pro LGBTQI maps, there's probably nothing wrong with that in general, but the conversation that it attracts is such a polarizing conversation. And again, this is ultimately a kid's game. In a lot of ways, this is a kid's game, and you have to respect that people want to be able to discuss these topics with their kids in a way that they feel healthy and safe and comfortable. I'm not saying that those maps specifically should be removed, but when you bring the ban hammer out and you're trying to remove any sort of inflammatory content, unfortunately, this is going to be roped in with dick maps and meme maps and all other things, because again, these are themes that are just probably a bit more conceptually advanced than what you would want a 6-year-old to see then and there and ask questions about. These kind of need to be brought up in an organic way that's healthy for the kid to understand as well, and that's not necessarily putting a flag in the back of a Super Smash Brothers map. So So I'm wholly supportive of Nintendo. I'm sympathetic to people who do have healthy ideas that are getting also hit with the ban hammer. But unfortunately, the ban hammer it's a nuke. You know, it's a hammer. It's not a scalpel. It's not set up in a way that's going to be able to try everything individually. It's just got to hit everything hard and quick. So yeah,
exactly, man. And like sort of expanding on that a little bit more, like, because this would then probably bring things into question regarding the classification of the game, like where it is sort of a G-rated game for everybody. When there are those types of images there, it could then bring up that rating to an M, an MA, potentially an R rating if they were left to keep around, because then it's, you know, religious-based connotations, sexual themes, so on and so forth. So, it puts everything into sort of disrepute, I guess. So, yeah, it's just a hard place to be. I don't think there is one way to sort of handle this in a way that makes everybody happy. There's going to be some divisiveness there, and some people are going to get hurt by, their positive messages getting squashed. But as you said, the hammer has to drop on everything to sort of keep it a level playing field. Because like if Archer is playing Smash Brothers and then he's like, "Hey, Brendan," or "Hey, Mummy, what's this in the background?" and having to have that conversation with him at 5 years old is certainly something we wouldn't be, wanting to do. So I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. So that is the news done for episode 93 of the House of Mario. We've got a couple more questions before we start closing this episode out. The next one comes via way of Metadocs on the Twitters, and they are asking, what is your favorite Nintendo franchise, and what would you do if you had to make the next game in that series? How would the game play? What would the general story be, and what new features would you include? Dream, I'm throwing this straight over to you. What do you got?
Cool, man. We sort of briefly talked about it earlier. I'm a huge Pokemon fan, and I've often thought about how I would change a Pokemon game. The one thing I would do, if I was to make my own Pokemon game from scratch, would be probably make it a little bit more mature in its content and its themes. I think there's like a lot of things you could do to really explore that world. But I also kind of understand that Nintendo will never do that because Pokemon is just such a great GPG title, and it's kind of perfect the way it is as a product. But what I would like to see is a new Pokemon Stadium game for the Switch. I think it's been a very long time since we've had a new Pokemon Stadium. I think you could debatably call Pokemon Colosseum on the Cube the last installment in that series, even though it wasn't really a true successor to that series of games. I thought they were just really fantastic games in general, though. So the Pokemon mini games were a lot of fun. The actual stadium battles themselves were fun. The gym leader challenges in those games were just really good reimaginings of those fights and the trainers in those gyms. There was a really strategic element to those particular approaches because you'd have to pick your set of 6 Pokemon and then tackle all of these trainers who had Pokemon that were, I guess, a little bit different to what they what you would see in the core series of games. On how to improve this, I think I'd like to see a bit more of an open world theme within the game. Not necessarily to see a true realized Pokemon world in 3D the way I was dreaming about before, but just to see a little avatar run around maps and explore a space. I think that'd be a lot of fun to do, particularly if it really incorporated a lot of the side features in Pokemon games, like, you know, dressing up your Pokemon, going to like Pokemon contests, and the mini games that are involved in the 3DS games, and also Pokemon Let's Go series as well. So I think seeing a new game and seeing how Nintendo might explore that on the Switch would be a lot of fun, for me at least, to see, and hopefully everyone else. I don't know.
I would not complain about more Pokemon Stadium and seeing it more realized as you sort of described it as. You know, I'd be keen for that. More Pokemon or more fleshed out Pokemon titles is never a bad thing. Like, you know, it's going to sell even if it is, you know, not a critically acclaimed title, but it would be nice to see something with a little bit more meat in it where you can sort of learn more about that Pokemon lore and have a more sort of larger look at that universe as a whole. So I'd be down for that. I'd be down for that. You know,
just like I talked a moment ago about how Pokemon doesn't really tackle very heavy themes in general. There's one Pokemon or 2 Pokemon games, Pokemon Black and White, where the antagonist in those games, the character N, his whole thing is he wants to free Pokemon because he doesn't like the idea of them battling each other as friends. That's really heavy. That's basically them tackling the idea of like, you know, Pokemon representing animals fighting, Pokemon having agency and feelings and thoughts as well, and not necessarily wanting to fight for people in a sort of slavitude kind of way. It's a really heavy concept, and to have the antagonist in that game be the person that's putting that idea out there that this whole thing might be a little bit fucked up, I thought it was incredible. And then they go and do like Alolan Pokemon and then Pokemon X and Y, and yeah, I don't know. Black and White though, that was really something. I'd like to see more of that. It's just, again, it's kind of hard, I guess, when you're trying to market it to 7-year-olds.
Yeah, it's a very fine line. So something where you wouldn't need to worry about that type of potential controversy is something I'd like to see, you know, get explored further on the Switch. Is something like Turok. Turok the Dinosaur Hunter, you know, debuted in 97 on the old Nintendo 64. Anyone that's had even half a conversation with me or listen to anything on the Hungry Gamers know that I'm a bit of a dinosaur tragic. So anything that mixes in, you know, vicious carnivore lizards and, you know, first person shooter mechanics, I'm definitely listening, you know, with open ears and open eyes on that type of conversation. So I'd be down to see them go back to that. Like they have done a bit of a remaster recently with 1 and 2 making its way to PC, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and also on the Switch. So that's cool to see, but a Turok 3 or, maybe just a reimagining of the original would be fantastic. But play more on the horror elements of it. Like, yeah, fair enough. You fight a lot of dinosaurs in that world, but you're a pretty badass Native American dude who can, handle himself in just about any fight with dinosaurs of no matter what scale. So maybe a little bit more of a horror element, sort of blended into some of that Dino Crisis era where there's a lot of jump scares and play on the tones and play on the darkness and the uncertainty of what's going to come around the corner, as opposed to being this sort of badass Native American that fears no evil sort of thing. So flesh that out, replace the evil campaigner as he was known in the original game, and put a big bad in there that you can sort of hate and sort of despise more heavily. But yeah, something in that regard, because we don't have a huge amount of first-person shooters on the Switch. So I think that'd sort of get a nice amount of focus from the media as far as a new or a sort of reimagined IP making its way to the Switch. Because outside of things like a Fortnite, there isn't really many top-tier shooter games on there. Like, we've seen Wolfenstein and Doom get on there, which is great. So we know it works, and we can know it can be successful. The processing power is enough there to make a game that looks good and plays good. So yeah, give me some Turok.
Nice. Yeah, that's a really good one. I forgot about Turok.
Yeah, I had to sort of dig deep as far as games that I can remember from previous genres and platforms that could fit this mold, and lo and behold, I ended up on a dinosaur-based title as per usual. So
yeah, no surprises there, dude.
Yeah. So that's sort of nearing the end of this episode. We've got a question here from Drew, obviously at iDrewby, one of the esteemed co-hosts of the House of Mario, and he has asked us, Dream, now I've had you guys over, do you have any renovation ideas for the house? Bryce wants a bright blue room to consume power stars, but I said that was a waste of space. Dream, what would you do here? Obviously, we are occupying the House of Mario right now. It's pretty nice. You've said you've been here before, so you've got a little bit more of an intimate knowledge of this place than I do. So tell me.
All right. So obviously, we're in the recording studio of the House of Mario at the moment. It's lovely. It's beautiful. There's like beautiful blue walls at the moment around this with like Super Mario World clouds there. We go outside and into like the living room, and it's weird, dude. I don't know if you noticed this, but there's like really low cut grass on the ground at the living room there.
I thought something felt a bit funny under my bare feet.
Yeah, it was super weird. And like, I don't know if you caught this, dude, but there was like Yoshi eggs waiting to hatch in the corner. I think
I may have taken one. It's already in the boot of my car, so I'm excited to see what comes out of that.
Don't tell them obviously that you stole that. Or did you leave money? Did you leave money for it at least?
Yeah, 3 gold coins.
Oh, okay. Is that what they were?
Yeah.
That was my next question, is how much was it worth? But it's like, it's got such like a really lovely, nice feel into it up here. You don't know this, dude, but there's a basement. And last time I was here with Drew and Bryce, they took me down to the basement, and there's this, it's solid concrete. It just looks like anyone else's basement, but there's this giant green pipe in the middle. And now I like Drew. I do, right? We did the first episode of the 8-Bit Cast together, and that's about as far back as our history goes because we didn't meet at PAX. And I think he was a bit upset with me for not being at PAX because he told me to go into the pipe. Now, me thinking that this is like a Mario pipe, I'm like, yeah, cool. I went down. But it turns out it doesn't really go anywhere. It's just like a well in the basement.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which just has like a pipe around it. Anyway, so I look up and there's literally no way for me to get up. And I'm thinking, what's going on? And then I see like Drew and Bryce come into vision. They're both holding like Nintendogs. And Bryce throws down some lotion and tells me to put it on my skin. It was very weird. So if you're asking me for like renovation tips, I guess the first thing I would do would be get rid of the pipe, like fill in the well, and just make sure that like no one can go down there for any reason at all. And I won't go into where that story went because we're all alive and we're all still here now. Bryce, Drew, you guys are the best people in the world, as I agreed to say on this show. And I idolize you and I love you, and just please don't hurt me anymore. But I love you and thank you for letting me come on House of Mario. Thank you. And close up the well.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. Like open wells are a safety hazard, no matter what house or dwelling you are in. You know, no one wants an open well because we've seen that amount of circumstances throughout history where people fall down them. Then we have, tragedies of like Sting having to dig a hole to get people out of those wells and things like that. So, close off the well.
Dig up.
Yeah.
Sorry,
maybe
it just reminded me of
maybe
that.
like some more ambiance throughout the house. Like have sort of like a little Koopa Troopa performing band in the corner. Akin to something out of Return of the Jedi. You could see, playing some tunes in the corner. Maybe a little bit more natural light as well. I've walked into a few rooms that were pretty dimly lit outside of, trance star lighting just sort of pulsing from the sky. Like, very hard on the eyes.
You know what's great though? Because the weather's always good here. It's always sunny. There's always like, if there's clouds in the sky, they're always beautifully white, like pearl white clouds that seem to just drift away ever so slowly. And they've got so much real estate in the back. Like from the front, doesn't look like much, but from the back, you really see just how the backyard opens up. They should put a dirt track in there and they should get some cuts in there. What do you think?
I think that'd be a fantastic idea. They just got to make sure they don't sort of dig up the sort of green mushroom sort of garden they've got going on the side there, because there's a lot of money and a lot of value there if they do decide to maybe open up a little shop front to sell said mushrooms. I don't know about the legalities of that, if there is some suspect, in quotes, medicinal sort of qualities from said mushrooms, but mate, a cart track in the back would not go astray. Maybe they could put a little back nine in there, sort of have a little sort of golf course going on through there. Maybe they could redesign and repurpose the garage and have it as a little doctor studio and have, Dr. Mario working in there, sort of curing what ails the local residents of, House of Mario Town. So
I like that idea.
Plenty of options.
I like that idea. I'll tell you what I wouldn't change. I wouldn't change the water feature out the front with the Master Sword. Kind of like in a King Arthur Sword in the Stone sort of sculpture. I wouldn't move that water feature. I think that's beautiful. Keep that.
No way. The way the light shines off Reggie's naked body as he sort of holds that sword with all the grace of a king it's a sight to behold. Like I had no idea that Reggie's buttocks was that pert.
Is that tight?
Perky.
Yeah, I agree.
Like goddamn, it's goals. I saw that when I walked in. Parked out the front and saw Reggie sort of smiling, candid grin with this big sword and that buttocks and that package. Like my goodness. Onwards and upwards, good sir. I know you're retired now, but you've got a few career options you could go into with a body like that, my friend.
Absolutely. I agree. I love the house. You've got our notes, boys. Fill the well, build the dirt track, keep the mushrooms growing, maybe start selling them legally.
And maybe take the wall out between the living room and the kitchen, really open it up, make that sense of space much more grand. I think less is more in these types of houses. Open it all up, bring in more natural lighting, maybe remove a couple of the stripper poles. Like I don't think you need 6. One or two is probably more than enough, but who am I to judge?
Yeah.
Each
really goes from kid friendly to adult only very quickly in that space. But there you have it, Drew. Bryce, Drew, bring the poles down to what, 2? Did we say 2? Maybe they should have 1 each, and maybe they should be like proper fireman poles going from upstairs to downstairs. What do you think of that?
See, then there's utility. I like that.
There's utility.
I like that.
Yep. Drew, Bryce, you've just been house ruled.
All right. And on that note, we are going to bring this episode to a close. Thank you for stopping by the House of Mario. It has been our pleasure to bring you this very special episode 93 of the House of Mario podcast. As mentioned, I am Brendan. That is Saleem. We are both from the Hungry Gamers podcast and proud card-carrying members of the hashtag 8-Bit Collective. Be sure to rate, review, subscribe this podcast, our podcast, and every other podcast you listen to, because those ratings and reviews help keep the emotional lights on in our hearts. Dream, is there anything you want to say before we say our final goodbyes here at the House of Mario?
None other than thank you again to Drew and Bryce. Thank you for letting us jump on and have fun with the House of Mario, and thank you very much for taking care of episode 148 for us. I look forward to listening to it. I can't wait to hear what you guys have done with our beautiful baby.
Yeah, thanks again for having us, guys. And if you don't mind, I'm going to take this nice little hentai Bowsette painting with me as we go. So, yep. All right, House of Mario listeners and broader members of the 8-Bit Nation. Until next time, much love.
Stay hungry.